How long a prayer do you have to pray to get it heard? Is 3 words long enough? And how many people can you feed in one day if you have a highly functional kitchen? Could you feed 10,000? Could you feed 20,000? And the world record for burgers in one day, I think, is about 10,000, and boy, they cooked hard. But in this video, Jesus feeds more than that without a kitchen. Let us read Matthew chapter 14. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the report concerning Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptizer. He is risen from the dead. That is why these powers work in him." For Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John said to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." When he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday came, the daughter of Herodias danced among them and pleased Herod. Therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she should ask. She, being prompted by her mother, said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was grieved, but for the sake of his oaths and those who sat at the table with him, he commanded it to be given, and he sent and beheaded John in the prison. His head was brought on a platter and given to the young lady. She brought it to her mother. His disciples came and took the body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. Now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place. When the multitudes heard about it, they followed him there from the cities. Jesus went out and saw the great multitude. He had compassion on them and healed their sick. When evening had come, his disciples came to him saying, "This place is deserted, and the hour is already late. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the villages and buy food." But Jesus said to them, "They don't need to go away. You give them something to eat." But they told him, "We only have 5 loaves and 2 fish." He said, "Bring them here to me." He commanded the multitudes to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed, broke, and gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave to the multitudes. They all ate and were filled. They took up 12 baskets full of that which was remained of the broken pieces, and those who ate were about 5,000 men, in addition to women and children. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he sent the multitude away. After he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into the mountain by himself to pray. When evening had come, he was there alone. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, distressed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. In the 4th watch of the night, Jesus came to them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It's a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Cheer up, it is I, don't be afraid." Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the waters." He said, "Come." Peter stepped down from the boat and walked on the waters to come to Jesus. But when he saw the wind was strong, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, took a hold of him, and said to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got up into the boat, the wind ceased, and those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "You truly are the Son of God." When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. When the people of that place recognized him, they sent into all that surrounding region and brought to him all who were sick. And they begged him that they might just touch the fringe of his garment, and as many as touched it were made whole. All right, this chapter starts with it's Herod the Tetrarch chopping off the head of John the Baptist. Tetrarch means a 1/4 ruler. So tetra means 4th, and an arch ruler. So that's that. The Romans had split the land up into sections, and this Herod was in charge of 1/4 section. He doesn't want to kill John the Baptist, but John the Baptist was thrown in jail by him for basically calling out his adulterous and incestuous affair. So he took the wife of his brother but it was also kind of like a family. There was like a family connection as well as an adulterous thing going on. He takes that lady and marries her. John the Baptist, said things, and John arrests him. But then the daughter of this woman... Now, so this woman really hates John the Baptist because John the Baptist is saying things about her. And so the daughter of the woman dances. Her name was Salome. It's not mentioned here. It's found from elsewhere. Salome does a dance. Herod's pretty impressed. Bert Kaufman said it was probably a belly dance. How do you know what type of dance it was? I don't know. Herod's impressed, and he says to her, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Now, have you ever seen those movies where someone does something for a king and the king says, whatever you ask, up to half my kingdom, I will do it for you. And it's like, they don't really mean you can have anything up to half my kingdom. So I don't actually know whether this was one of those just grand, magnanimous things you say that's not supposed to be taken seriously, or whether it was. To me, if it was a completely dumb thing to say. You never say to someone who's done a dance or something minimal, you can have whatever you want. If I said that to my kids, they would say something like, I'd have a Ferrari, please. It's not within my realms to say, but even a king can't say that and shouldn't say things like that. I think the girl was not supposed to ask for something like that. There's probably some kind of courtroom behaviour, or palace behaviour. You're supposed to say, "Oh, I couldn't ask for anything," and but if you're so gracious, just give me this little thing. And there's probably some kind of, magnanimous grand thing you're supposed to say back, saying how wonderful the king is. But no, her mother gets in her ear and says, "I want the head of John the Baptist on a plate." So John loses his head. I looked up Josephus on this. Josephus, the historian. I wanted to see what Josephus said about it. Josephus said that John the Baptist was a good man. And so you remember a lot of Jewish people who never accepted Jesus as the Messiah. There was a whole heap of them that loved John. And Josephus is someone that never became a Christian. He was Jewish, but he wrote about John and said John was a good man. And he said that when Herod killed him, later on, Herod sent an army that was completely destroyed, and a lot of people in the land of Israel at the time felt that Herod was being punished for killing John the Baptist. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. That's what Josephus had to say about that. But Jesus and John the Baptist were friends and cousins. You might remember back in, it's actually in the Gospel of Luke. We haven't got to it yet, but Mary and Elizabeth, they spend time together when they're both pregnant, but they're related. They're relatives. And John the Baptist and Jesus are born just 3 months apart, but they're cousins. And they grow up as cousins, knowing each other, but they're also friends. And so when Jesus hears that John the Baptist is killed, it's a sad thing. It's not just like, oh, they've just killed John. Oh well, Jesus is saddened, and he wants to get away to a lone place. And it says here, verse 13, it says, when Jesus heard this, so when he heard the news that his friend and cousin John the Baptist was killed, he withdrew from there in a boat and went to a deserted place. In other words, he wanted some time out. He wanted to be alone. But it said the multitudes heard about it and followed him. If you're a mother, and even if you're a father sometimes you just want to go to the toilet and have 5 minutes of peace, but even then the kids follow you and they're banging on the door. And, imagine if you got sad news and you just need a day or two to process it, but you can't. Jesus has got the crowds following him. Now, sometimes we think, oh, he's God, he could handle it. Yeah, he's God, but he's also a person. And sometimes we think that God's got no feelings, like, oh, he can handle it. But no, God's got feelings greater than our own. God's feelings are bigger than our own. We're made in God's image. You think you've got feelings. Well, God had them first. And so Jesus is fully God and fully man. He's sad. And he's trying to get a moment to think about it and pray about it, and the multitudes won't leave him alone. And it's at this point that he feeds the crowd, feeds the 5,000. Now, he feeds 5,000 men, plus women and children. This is a crowd of over 15,000 people. It's probably a crowd of 20 or 25,000 people, because people didn't just have one kid. You know, you think of men and women, and no, they often had a whole tribe of children, especially back in these days where there's no contraceptives. Lots of Bible families have, 5 or 8 children. Some of them have 10 or 12. Sometimes you've got 10 or 12 boys listed and they don't list all the girls, but there's girls as well. So if there's 5,000 men here, there's probably at least 5,000 women. There's probably 15 or 20,000 kids. This is a huge crowd, and Jesus feeds them all. He's in this sad state, but even in that sad state, he feeds the crowd. I saw a video recently of Mr. Beast, who I've seen 2 or 3 Mr. Beast videos. He's interesting, but I don't waste my time much watching videos, but I was on holidays at the time. And he decided to open a burger joint. And he's really popular. So he announces he's going to open this burger joint, and people come from all over the USA to line up to get a burger they're lining up a day before. And there's this lineup of 10,000 people all wanting a burger. And he looks at this and he knows he's about to open. This is like your typical kind of McDonald's style place. And he realizes we're not going to be able to feed this entire crowd. So he somehow gets the cooking staff primed, and they've got extra cookers there and everything. And they managed to feed about 9 or 10,000 people burgers in one very long day. And at the end of the day, you can go find that video and watch it. He is exhausted. He's wrecked. This story of Jesus, he's already tired. He already wants to get alone. And they don't start feeding the crowd till the end of the day. It says, when evening came, the disciples said, this place is deserted, send them away to get food. So it's already dinner time. It's the end of the day. In the Mr. Beast thing, they were cooking all day long to feed that crowd. But it's at the end of the day, Jesus blesses the food. He blesses the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and they feed in excess of 15,000 people. Mr. Beast's video is cool, but Jesus is cooler. Mr. Beast got nothing on Jesus. And of course there was 5 loaves and 2 fish. 5 is the number of grace, and this was done by grace. And then the chapter finishes with Jesus sending them all away, and him now trying to get some alone time. But then even in that alone time, he realizes his disciples are caught in a storm and he has to go and rescue them. And Peter walks on the water, and Peter cries out the shortest prayer in the Bible. 3 words: Lord, save me. I prayed a 2-word prayer once: Lord, help. And he helped. You don't have to pray long, complicated, fancy prayers to get your prayers heard. It just has to be a prayer where you're looking at the Lord. Sometimes we're in prayer meetings. We have a lot of prayer meetings here at Peace. And sometimes we're in prayer meetings where people say, I didn't think I could pray because I didn't have the right words. I didn't know what to say. And you're all praying such lovely prayers. If you don't know what to say, just say, God, I don't know what to say, but I need help with A or B or C. Whatever the thing is, just say, Lord, help me with this. That's it. You've prayed a prayer. And it's as good a prayer as this one here in Matthew 14, where Jesus answered immediately. Doesn't take a lot of faith, and God can give an answer. All you need is to cry out to him and, like Peter, look at him. Lord, save me. That level of faith is sufficient. One of the wonderful things about Jesus is he cared about people. He put the needs of others above himself. And I think that's why we're drawn to him, because we know his care for us is real. Lord, I thank you, your care for us is real. Your compassion is real. I thank you, you've touched our hearts. You meet our needs. Your name is to be glorified above all. And Father, I pray that you'd open the eyes and the ears of people all around us to see the Lord, to see salvation, to see Christ. And Lord, I would say a special prayer today for Mr. Beast. I ask that he would come to know the Lord, Lord, let his eyes be open to see Jesus. Amen.